I've been good.
Yeah.
How about you?
I'm not so good. I mean, your place isn't open, so
No
I
kidding.
haven't gotten half of my dopamine, you know, because that's what it really is to everybody. Most comedians I've learned are emotionally, mentally fucked.
Oh, this is so true.
Yeah, or we are drug addicts. And
Yeah.
I fall more on the not drug addict. I'm a drug controller. I know how to control my drugs. Like, I know not to get high and go to Walmart and go grocery shopping because I'm going to buy every fucking thing.
Right.
Financially, it's not smart for me.
Yeah, I've noticed online some of the comics. You know, you could really pick up on their kind of stressing out a bit because they're not being able to get on stage and let the shit out.
Oh yeah, definitely. I went last night to the Word Up, and it had been, I don't know, maybe a week and a half before, but I know I had the Elijah's show and Nate Barron's show coming up, and I had to get some kind of time. And I went to Gary Becker's last week. I forgot about that. But that's a mic that's just brutal. Like, everybody's just drunk. It's South City, and they act like you're not there, or every word you say they have something to heckle about. I do all right, better than a lot of the storytellers, because everyone's drunk. Drunk as piss. They don't want to hear stories.
No.
They're not going to be able to follow it. So I just do one-liners.
Yeah, that's you probably do well with the
most
your one-liners.
The meanest ones I can think of, and they love it.
Oh yeah,
they love it. It works out. But I've got some questions.
All right.
To figure you out. What did your parents do?
What did my parents do? That's a good question. My dad was one of the original builders out of Lake St. Louis. Before that, he was, by trade, he was an electrician, worked for like Chrysler down in Fenton, and just kind of sat there, and when something broke, he'd fix it, you know. And but yeah, he was a builder, and so I grew up in that. My mom didn't really, she was more a social person, and then got into politics. She was a state representative, first woman state rep in St. Charles County. I don't know. It could have been in Missouri. I never really got into that part of. Yeah, it probably was, because it was in the 80s, so there really wasn't many women in politics. So she was very involved with Lake St. Louis, started Quarry League, started Chamber of Commerce out there, and so that's I think that's where I get my entrepreneurism is from. Get a little crackle there from my dad, and then what my mom did.
So that gives me no reasoning why you decided to open a comedy club, because you got to be crazy, insane to want to have to deal with people like us nonstop.
You know, that was a learning curve. Honestly, that was as an entrepreneur, I've been an entrepreneur, you know that for my whole life. So when I decided to do that, that was a layer of unknown for me, is your guys' personalities. And that's one thing, as what I think I'm really good at, is laying back, and just observing and let you guys be you. Because the one of the underlying reasons I opened it was for the comic. What I did when I was researching a lot is I was listening to a lot of comic shows, and I kept picking up on cues of the comics know how to get up there and do funny, but they really don't know how to make money at it. And that is what I want to do for you guys, is to help you make a business out of this. And not just, I've helped a couple comics go up the line and get regional work, but more, I want to teach you guys how to merchandise, because merchandise, yes. And merchandising is the key to making money, because, as you know, a lot of clubs don't, if you go to New York, they don't pay you. You work for free. Yeah. Until you become someone fairly big. And so you got to do the merchandise. You got to be a niche guy, and you got to figure out how to market yourself. And that's something I'm pretty good at doing. We unfortunately with this whole year, every plan I had to start working with you guys, because we actually had some things planned through the summer that were going to be like kind of workshops.
Right, kind of
And
like what the helium tries to do, but I
yeah,
don't hear
but
good return. I don't hear
yeah,
outcome.
and I was doing it more from a different aspect of business, and I had a few comics. I actually had one that was one of the writers for Ron White. I
Wow.
talked to. He actually lives in the Philippines. We were working on a thing that, he's a great joke writer, and so to get people in to go, all right, here's my formula on how to write jokes. And with COVID and everything, that just didn't
Yeah,
work
it's
out.
canceled.
But that's something that in the future, that's what I want to do.
Yeah. I see. I know you're very into the local business. I see the what is that? A networking group you have on there on
Yeah,
Tuesdays? That's
Wednesdays. Yeah, we were.
IK or
Yeah,
something like that.
IK. Yeah,
I follow that actually, and um, what is that? You guys just owners of small businesses, kind of
right.
giving each
Yeah,
other
and that's
leads and
that networking, and that's so funny because there's so many people. I've been in networking forever. And it's funny that a lot of people don't even know what networking is or how to utilize it. But yeah, if you're a business owner, it's just a way to meet other people, build relationships, because it's hard for, like, for me, if you own, let's say you owned a contracting company, and
yeah, I'm thinking about opening.
yeah, and I can help you do that. But the if I really didn't know who Brad was, if I just took you on your face value on what you look like, I'd be kind of sketchy about it. I'm like, I don't know if I'd. But me getting to know you and know who you are, I could go to any of my friends and say, Brad's going to do a great job. He's just a good guy. Don't worry about his dreads.
Yeah.
Just let him do his job, and you're going to be impressed.
That's the one reason I haven't jumped headfirst into the owning of my own company. I almost did it. I almost wanted to start it because right now I'm just making another guy money.
Right.
He comes up, he hands me the blueprint, he brings me in a guy if I need new guys or something, and I build it. I do the print, and it's like, man, I could be doing this and making a lot more for myself. And then I start thinking, well, how do you find the work? And all I've ever seen, I know Rex Rieger. I used to watch him and the way he runs his company, which he's a smooth talker. He's one of those people that's a more of a car salesman, real good car salesman. He's a landscape owner, but he was the smoothest talker, and you could see certain customers just get hypnotized by his smile and his swiftness of his tongue, and it was like he half the time he didn't know what he was talking about. He was just a bullshit artist, and it's like I don't want to be that. And,
No, definitely not.
But contracting, I know, and that's I was gonna. If I do it, the hair will probably go because I understand. I look at people that look at me, and I'm like, we'll try him out. We'll see what he's like after lunch.
Yeah.
I
If
get
it comes back after lunch,
Yeah, I get it. I know what our reputation is. We had that, and but that's one thing. My mom is a business owner, very small business owner, house cleaning. My mom and pop, they've had their own house cleaning company my whole life, and they've never expanded. It's just been them two, and they have a great reputation. I mean, they do Rams. They used to do the Rams, a bunch of Rams players and baseball players for Cardinals, top lawyers, and it's like anytime they want to get more customers, they have such great references they can. I was like, don't you think it's time to start hiring, and expanding and stop breaking your backs every day? And I always seen that, and I was like, because I went to college for business originally. I wanted to go to Wall Street eventually, but I don't have the money for that, and I'm not as skilled of a trader as I thought I'd be, to be honest. But I went to business school, and a lot of the stuff that they were teaching in school, it wasn't the secrets to the sauce.
Oh no. Especially business school does not teach you anything about owning and running a business. What business school teaches you is the black and white of the legal, the paperwork, which you can and they do get into some theory, but most of that you can read a book and learn. There's 1,000 books that it gives you step by step kind of thing.
Yeah, I don't know if I've read the right ones. I've done the Robert Kiyosaki's, the Good Dad, it's Rich Dad, Poor Dad,
Right.
a bunch of the other ones when I was doing the stock.
Well, that's
thing.
like when,
Like
yeah,
good debt and bad debt, the difference.
yeah, and
stuff
that's
like that.
and that goes to the mindset, and that's where 90% of being able to run a successful business or achieving anything in life, you take even business out of it, just being successful, whatever you feel success means to you, to get there is a mindset thing. It is not what you look like or even your ability. I've seen the stupidest people in the world become very successful because they had the right mindset and they said, I'm going to do it. And they don't listen to anyone that naysayers, because the one thing that you'll learn, and it's probably something that your mom and dad have struggled with, is a fear that, because when you get to a certain level, you start getting noticed by other companies and then they'll start tearing you down. And there's a level that, if you are not thick skinned, you're just going to get knocked off that pedestal and you're going to fall down. And that's where most businesses fail or do not reach the potential of what they want to do. And that's where, like, one of my things, I did business coaching and I still do, I just don't really push it, for several years, but I'm also a certified life coach, because what I found when I was working with clients is most of their issues were with themselves, not with what they were doing. It was all in their head. And so you got to you got to work through those fears and anxieties of whatever that is. And that's why I love to help comedians with that, but I don't want to fix them. I don't want to fix their mental screw up, because that's where the good jokes come from.
Right. Yeah.
But I want to, on the business side, help them.
Yeah. On the business side, that's the biggest thing I see, because I see a lot of good comedians that aren't. I'm one of the people. I didn't have a Facebook until you required people to go on Facebook. I remember emailing you like, "Hey, how do I sign up? Like, where's the sheet? Like, what do I got?" You're like, Facebook, 8:00 in the morning. I'm like, shit, I gotta make a Facebook, and I was just never good at it. I did have Facebook for a short amount of time, but every time I turned it on in the morning and looked at it, because I definitely see how people get addicted, I realized it was really just addicting you to being mean and mad at something. It wasn't the happy-go-lucky stuff that I was in the morning seeing, because I follow politics, believe it or not. But I don't have a side, because I kind of look more at the black and white. I try to with politics.
Right.
I feel you can't listen to what they're saying. You have to see what they've done and what they're actually doing, and what the policy is in the policy, because I've learned every single one tells you they're going to do one thing to get your vote, and then they could do the complete opposite. So I can't agree with either side. I think Trump did okay on certain things, and I think he did horrible at other things.
Oh, absolutely. And you got to, well, if you want to go into Trump, I didn't have a problem with him. Where I think majority of the world has a problem with him is because he's not a politician. He is a businessman, and he looked at our country as a business, not in a political thing. And that's where he rubbed a lot of people the wrong way, because, when you own a business, you have to make certain decisions, and they might not be the most popular ones, but there's a reason why. And it goes back to or like you just mentioned about Facebook. There's a reason I said you need to sign up on Facebook at 8 a.m. on Monday. The people that do that, because there was people that were like, I ain't gonna do that. I'm like, well, then you're not going to get signed up. Plain and simple. It kind of taught a responsibility, because if you had enough the ability to get up at 8 a.m. or do it. And there was a couple people that said, I am really in the middle of work and I can't do it. And I'm like, hey, not a problem. Just let me know. And we worked it. I
meet these people and know what their jobs are, because I'd be on a roof setting trusses with a crane, and I'll hear that alarm, and I'll have the crane swing in with trusses.
Well, bro, Brad, that's why. Have you ever not gotten on when you wanted on?
No,
That's and
I
that's the thing.
preach your place because it's the best mic in Missouri. I was just talking to the other guys last night, Zach and Elijah. I was like, "Where's your favorite place?" And one was like, I kind of like the Funny Bone. I kind of like it. I was like, why? And they was just the material things about it, whatever they have, the stage or what. I was like, have you ever met the owner of Funny Bone or the Helium? Have you ever met anyone from that's running it? Have come and just sit there and talk to the comedians? No, I don't. I think it's the guy behind the bar or this other guy. I was like,
No.
have you noticed Mike's at every single open mic? Like, he gives opportunities. I've always been preaching that because Becker
Thank
didn't
you.
want to come for the longest time. He's like, it's way out there. I'm hardcore Democrat. He's hardcore Republican. I was like, I don't think Mike has anything to do with politics when it comes to his company and
Nope.
his business. I was like, you got to get over that, and you can't if you're gonna let that run your comedy. Like, if you want to be a comedian, you better get over it because I hate to say it, most business owners, a lot of them, all the ones in the industry I work for, are Republicans.
Oh, absolutely.
And
Yeah.
it's like, I see that. I don't know why. It may have to do with the way the policies roll out for business owners underneath the Republican control. But me and Zach kind of got into a little heated argument about capitalism and socialism. And I was like, I just believe in I believe in capitalism. I tried trading stocks. I want to own my own company. It's like I want to have a fair chance to compete in a free market. He's like, well, you can with socialism, and it's like, but capitalism causes all these greed and all this corruption. I was like, no, failed government causes capitalism to fail like it's failing right now. And I was like, and I do agree with a lot of things he says because I believe in 2020 we have the technological abilities and we have the means that no person on earth should go without clean water, some bread in their stomach, and a warm shelter. Those we can provide those with just probably Detroit alone. How many projects of just ghost town of apartments that have gone to just waste out there since the GMC shut down or whatever the car factory plant was out there.
All right. Well,
And
a bunch of them did.
yeah, so I believe in that, but I also believe in the ability to compete in the free market. And like you said, that fear, I think, is the biggest thing that people have a problem with when it comes to the free market because you have the ability to take other people out. You can take their business,
Right.
And yeah, my parents probably would. They probably wouldn't do good at it. That's a big reason they're owners is because they just don't like bosses. They don't like to be
Oh,
told.
that's the reason I've always been an entrepreneur. If I've worked for somebody, it's usually been in a short term, and I never did well because I don't like to be told what to do either. I listen very well, and I take everything in, but at the end of the day, it's still going to be what I want to do.
I've started one with somebody. It was a microgreen. I was growing pot a long time ago when I was like 19, and my buddy had just got his first place. His dad gave him their place, and he had bought a new place, all on the same road next to this fish factory. And I worked for him delivering seafood and meat. Well, he was like, the plants are so cool. He was a little pothead too, and he's like, I want to grow something. And I was like, why don't you grow microgreens? Because you're already dealing with restaurants. And it was actually my real dad's idea, but we got on that. And we went in, jumped in, all the equipment. And I was like, don't even worry about money because he put up the money for the equipment. I just put it all together and got all the grow. I knew the grow end. He had the money end.
Right.
And he slowly learned and picked up all the growing stuff. I was like, I don't want any money until we turn profit. We pay off all the material, everything we've paid for that you've put your money in. Let's get that back. And as soon as we hit our first profit, turned money to where we pretty much had everything paid off, they accused me of stealing a check out of a work truck. And I was like, they paid me well. We lived together. Me and the guy lived together. I was like, why would I steal from the guy that lives next to me? And that was the one thing I always said, don't accuse me. I don't steal. I work hard for what I have. And they accused me of that, and I got really mad. And it was all over that. It was because his dad was a snake in the grass businessman, very good at what he does. But he seen that there was something taken off because we were getting $12. We were doing all kinds of exotic microgreens because we sold it really high in restaurants. And just those little raspberry bins of some colored rainbow shard, we were getting like $12 a bin, and they were ordering like 10 at a time. And
Wow.
they were really starting to take off. And his pop seen it. Like, I'm gonna get him out. I'm gonna push him because I didn't have nothing in writing. Like I said, I was 19.
Yeah, and that's the thing. You know, that's if anybody, if we talk about starting businesses, um, when you get involved with a partner, you have to look so deep into who they are, what their background is, who their parents are, how they did. Because I've been screwed over multiple times because of my kind heart, and kind of like, you know, you have that same kind of heart where, hey, I don't care about the money right now. Let's just get something built and going. And as soon as it gets going, then there's people. It might not be the partner. Like in my case, it was the partner's wife and son who's like, oh, Michael's making way too much money. You know, cut his salary in half. You can't do that. You know.
I know exactly. My brother-in-law's. He owns a very successful electrical company. He started with his best friend, Mike. Mike is the name of it, and he's been trying to get them to buy him out because the dude, like, everything, vacation, get like food out, kids going out, you know, spending shopping sprees, all on the company stuff. And then they had a receptionist that they weren't paying track, and that was basically paid for a sex change and a new car, hundreds of thousands of dollars. He had to hire like some Washington, because he's out in Virginia, had to hire like these 5 people to come from Washington down, and they were like the top of the top accounting people to go through everything, like all 10 years of his stuff, and then find, because all they were coming up with like, she took $500,000. It ended up coming up to less than that, but they still took a big hit. And his friends just like met this woman, I guess, and the woman's now, she's one of those, he bought a new wife pretty much.
Yeah.
And she's just in his head. They were best friends. Now they're not best friends, and that's kind of how me and that guy were. We were best friends. Like every night I went to work, came home, and we worked down in the grow room all night long together, you know, bullshit, and would go to parties and stuff. He was Jehovah's Witness, and he didn't have parties. I threw him his first birthday party ever.
Oh, wow.
You know, all kinds of stuff. Like, but he was, like, that's more like, it's kind of cultish. I'm not gonna say it's a cult, but I went to their kingdom hall, their day of worship, and he wasn't allowed. He had to go sit in a completely opposite room and listen to the service on a speaker. He was excommunicated from the group, and because he had done something wrong, got tattoos or something. I was like, "Are you kidding me, man?" I was like, and they were trying to convert me. I was like, "You guys are fucking crazy." He was like, "You want this guy to?" No. So but good businessman. I give him that. Like that. That guy was. He was on it, and they take care of each other. It's a tight knit community. The Jehovah's Witness, like they all meet up once a year, and I noticed that's a good marketing thing there too. I couldn't do it just because I'm not religious. I believe in a lot of other things. I believe there's something out there. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the Mesopotamian, ancient Sumerian, Anunnaki, Epic of Gilgamesh story, or, you know, Kershaw or whatever from the Indians. But I mean, as I've read, the most I've looked into is it all sounds like it comes from the ancient Sumerians, from the cuneiform text, from what I've read and learned. It sounds like all religions have basically come from that, and it's like the oldest known writing. It's from the civilization that created writing, created the first civilization, and it's just, I went head first into that, and then I realized it doesn't matter.
No,
it doesn't matter.
That's a key in most things in life. It really doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You know.
So, your parents, your dad was a builder. That's great. I was a builder. I like to build things. That's something.
Me too. I honestly thought I was going to take over the business, the family business, and that was the plan. But in it was 1985, my junior year in high school, my dad had a subdivision, and that's when like interest rates were really stupid high, and everything kind of
Like
slowed
20.
down. Yeah, and the his backer, the guy who put the money up, it was a company out of Chicago, pulled the plug, and my dad had to come up with $1 million in 1985. That's like,
That's a lot of money. Yeah.
several $1 million today. And he couldn't do it. So he had to close the business. So that just kind of threw me off. And that kind of changed my whole life at that point, of where I was going. I was lost from that point on for several years.
All right.
It was kind of a dark time.
So did you do the college thing?
I did. I went to actually just community college, electrical engineering,
Okay.
and ended up starting my first company, which was a home automation company back in the 90s. And
Oh, wow. Look at where that's come today.
yeah, I did. Actually, it was like one of those things my wife keeps yelling at me, even to today when I bring it up. I did this home in off of Conway Road. It was 10,000 square feet, enormous home. Hallways were 6 feet wide.
Yeah, I've built them.
Yeah. You know what I'm talking about. Well, the guy he had a son had Nintendo, and he was like, it would be great because we were building in TVs and everything into the wall. That was when it was first kind of really new.
Yeah.
And that was when the big screens, were 2 feet deep. So anyway, he goes, I'd really want him to be able to play his game at different things. So I actually made the first Nintendo wireless. I did the signal. So you just basically, it was a wireless signal, a repeater, and you just plugged it into the wall, and I modulated the channel. So no matter, you turned it on channel, let's say 33, and that would be the game station.
Okay.
And so anywhere you just had to plug it into the wall, and it was wireless. So
you should have patented that.
Oh yeah, that was really cool. That was using X10 technology, which is still really relevant today. A lot of cars have it. That's like if you have like a Ford or something, it's got the 3 buttons up on the thing. That's
sold me on a new
That's
car.
X10 technology, and with those you can set one for your garage, which most people do, and then the other ones you can use for turning on and off lights.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
So it's really actually something in today's Bluetooth technology. It's super simple to set up. So I got into that, and ended up I had a company buy me out. And then I went around the country training people, teaching people, electricians, how to do home automation.
You and my brother-in-law Mike would get.
Yeah. See, I have
because he owns an electrical company, and he's really into all that. I had to have him come out because I had years ago had a growth setup going, and I mean it was all professional, and I didn't know how to set the electrical up, and I was like, I'm not plugging everything in and burning it down. So I had him come all the way out from Virginia. He brought like a whole spool, like a big huge roll of wire with him, and we ran everything, and he built like actual what are they? A ballast. He built me like some upgraded ballast to be able to run stuff. I was like, man, this guy is. I wish I knew electrical, but I've seen what it can do. I worked for the guy once as a laborer, and the other guy hit a wrong wire. I didn't want none of that.
Yeah.
I didn't want none of that. I blew a bulb the other day changing it, and it scared me. So what would you? So an automation company was your first one, and it didn't go in. You sold it successfully.
Yeah. That's probably I made a. That was like one of those things when you're right out the chute. I was successful. Mm-hmm. I did very well, and I grew really fast. and grew faster than I knew even how to handle it. And I didn't know what I know now because I was in my 20s. And, uh, and that's one reason why I started helping people with their business and become a business coach later on is because most people start a business, they have some growth, but then like what now? They don't know how to deal with accounting or, like you know how to build stuff, but do you know everything, how to set up your LLC if you're doing that? How do you,
Yeah,
you
I've
know,
looked a lot into that. The biggest thing I have issue with is pricing because that's the one thing the owners never let you see is the how they're bidding it, how they're pricing it, what I'm getting paid, what he's getting paid, and what he's charging per square foot, pretty much. I'm not probably worse with that. I've looked into the LLC because I was a 1099 contractor for a little while. Well, he had me 1099, and I
right,
was like, the best way to go about. I didn't want to have to deal with all the like at the end of the year pay taxes,
right.
and I just heard it was smarter. Just from what I've learned in school, it would be smarter to set up a LLC
Well,
or
LLC,
S
which is a
corp or
limited
something.
liability corporation, what that's good for is protects you and your property. So let's say you're doing work and something goes wrong, the people can sue the LLC, but they're not going to get your
Right, I get
house.
my house, but I thought that's what insurance was for, though. If you have a company, isn't that what if you screw something up, isn't your insurance supposed to cover that?
Yeah,
That's
if
that I
you
kind of when I got to that point, I was like, then what's the point of paying for this?
it gets deeper in that. If you're depends on what the search, the reason you're being sued is,
Oh,
and
okay, something like
some
negligence.
insurance policy is not always going to cover what you. It's like I have an insurance policy on the club now. You would think, hey, I can't run my business. The insurance should pay me something, but in there they have a pandemic clause. You know, we haven't had a pandemic since 1918,
Yeah, I would
and
like to see. That's the kind of things I look into. I'm like, when did that get put into place?
exactly,
Right?
and so, but they had that in there, so they, I couldn't get any money from my insurance company, and so. Insurance is very tricky, and you gotta, now if it burns down, knock on wood, it doesn't. I'll get money for it. All the equipment and the interior, but not that that's that much
Was that a
to deal
knock
with.
on wood to go ahead and take it since the coronavirus is burning
Yeah,
the world?
no kidding.
If anybody wants to, no.
No, that is not.
Yeah, see, that's the I've heard. I see some of the dumbest people fuck over insurance, and then I see the most straight arrow people get fucked over by insurance.
Oh
It's
yeah,
like, how does that work? How can a dumbass, like hillbilly, non-educated person figure out all the loopholes in the system to be able to, basically always collect? Like I've had buddies, like I used to have a buddy that was a semi-pro motocross racer, and they used to give him vouchers for 2 bikes a year that were insured. And like once every couple of years, one bike would just get stolen out of his garage, and he'd get a whole nother free bike. And
right.
it's like, I
Well,
know,
it's that's and that comes down to an ethical situation.
yeah,
I could never do that because I have too many ethics, and
but and your bike actually gets stolen, and
yeah,
then somehow they find a clause
I
because
know. Yeah,
well, the
you're
temperature
screwed.
was 98 degrees that day. We have a 98-degree clause that it makes it.
I know.
It's like that's where I've always been like, it's. But then again, I guess that goes down to what in my trade, it's like give the laziest guy the hardest job, and he'll find the quickest and easiest way to do it.
Right.
And some of these people just won't do it the right way. But I've seen what you did, and I was quite impressed because a lot of people were like, I don't know. You see a lot of different comedy clubs or music clubs and stuff that pop up and go away real quick. And especially since you were out there in St. Charles, I was like, I don't know. But my first night there, I was like, oh, I'm coming back here for sure.
All right.
I think
Thank you.
Elisa was running Tuesday nights or something like
Right.
that.
Yeah.
And I got a text from either you or her to because just got the Facebook. Uh, no, I'd emailed you, And that's why Lisa contacted me, because I finally got the Facebook thing. And she was like, you should come out Tuesday. And I seen what you were going to do. And I was like, man, this place is more packed than the Helium and the Funny Bone. Even then, before the pandemic.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. Before pandemic, we were doing great.
And what was your plans for that? Like, if there was no pandemic, were you going to expand? Because I seen you bringing in some decent names, and I just don't see as many seats there to make you as much.
You know, if we sold out, let's say, you know, I'm running 4 shows, which, you know, that's what the ideal thing is, you know, on a weekend. And we sell out 2 and do fairly decent on the other ones, I make a decent living. I wasn't looking to make this bigger. I'm 52 years old. I was looking for something I'm going to have fun with, not have to work that hard at it, and be able to help you guys. That was more of where my excitement was going to come from. It is like, hey, let's, if I can make Brad, earn decent money doing comedy, even though, he might not do it full time, but go out and hit the road and do a few weekends here and there. That is what my passion is. It'd be great to it wouldn't to go get bigger and get a bigger venue. That's where, this one was perfect. The overhead was right. It's a low overhead. And so, working with the Tap House.
A lot of people look at you and you tell them that and probably think, okay, whatever. A lot of people don't realize that because it's not something you see in people. There's not many people that want to build each other up.
Oh, I know. And that's what's sad about, you talk about, you brought up socialism versus capitalism. Very few companies have that greed mentality. Most of them, honestly, are wanting to have a business to support their family and the families that are working for them. And that's where that loyalty comes in. Yeah, there's always those bad apples, right? And everybody sees the bad apple in the business world. If you go back to where entrepreneurism really started, all those guys were ruthless. Vanderbilt.
Are you talking about the Carnegies?
Yeah, the Carnegie, Vanderbilt. Yeah, J.P. Morgan.
The Wahlbergs.
The Wahlbergs.
Wasn't it Warburgs or something like that? He was a right-hand man of the Chases.
Yeah, okay.
He was the one that went to Jekyll Island with Chase and rode up and created the Federal Reserve.
Yes, exactly.
So,
and so that you get the that's how yeah, that's how it all started, and that was horrible because all those the workers, but we are so much more aware now, and I think for the most part, majority of business owners do things for the right reasons, and that's where capitalism is good. Where socialism, if you have to depend on the government to do, to put food on your table and control your life, that kills your will to live. It's it's.
But there is a lot of good. I think me and Zach came to the conclusion. I was like, for one, socialism is a theory. It's never been implemented. They've never really tried real Marxism. Like what everyone's pushing today is Karl Marx's theory, I believe. Or that's what I keep hearing all of them say when they bring up. Like Zach kept quoting Karl Marx, and I always heard Marxism is a bad thing. But a lot of the stuff he said I agreed with. And a lot of stuff because I was like fact checking him right there. I was like, well, let's look it up. Fuck the arguing. Let's just look it up. Let's look it up. And a lot of the stuff I do believe in. I don't believe in the control with the government, but I believe we should have the people that need it. It should be there because we have no problems. Since the 30s, we've been bailing out and giving billions of dollars to the corporations. It started with the railroads.
Yeah.
And that's when the steel took a dive. And the people that owned all that were the billionaires. These were the Chases, the Carnegies.
Right.
And it's like they started getting these bailouts. And I was like, that's when I realized, I was like, well, we're not a capitalist country. I have always looked at it as a corporate socialist country. It's how I've always looked at us. When I looked at the history, I was like, okay, if we give these people that don't run their company correctly bailouts so they can continue not running their company correctly, just like Boeing. Boeing was failing before the pandemic. We should have let them fail, filed Chapter 11 or whatever, and had a whole new board come in and restructure their company. It would have done a lot better than just giving them billions of dollars of handouts again. And just, well, it's a lot of jobs. You know, there's a lot trickle down. We got to give them money for trickle down. Obviously, doesn't work. We've been trying it for a long time.
Right.
I mean, like you said, the owners want to take care. You know, and you can't grow and expand. In my opinion, it's consumers that drive businesses. It's consumers that drive companies. And if you can't afford to consume, you can't expand. And if you can't hire employees, if there's no employees to build your company and expand, like Amazon, they get huge tax breaks because they bring so many jobs. Well, Amazon couldn't be Amazon if it wasn't for the employees. He wouldn't be able to expand if he couldn't hire the people that he needs to expand the company. So why does he get a tax break for that? He couldn't be making money the way he's making money without those employees. So why are these guys paying a tax and he's not?
I agree with that.
I agree in a flat tax. I believe there should be taxes, but every citizen should, and every company, depending on what class you are. If you're corporate on the S&P and all that, you're going to pay a different one. You know, if you're bringing in billions of dollars of product like pharmaceuticals from publicly taxes and funded shit, you're not going to make $1 billion profit off of it. Like, there's a lot of things I see that I feel that's ruined the name of capitalism. They blame it on capitalism, but really it's government and deregulation from what I see. But I don't know. I dropped out of college in my third year and stopped paying attention for
that
a
doesn't.
long time.
Yeah, and I do not like kind of you. I don't get that much into politics, and I don't really, I'm at a point. I just kind of live my life and do what I got to do.
Seems like a high school popularity contest. The people you see on the news and everything that's talked about, no one talks about policy. No one talks about, when you ask them, well, what do you think about the trade war with the tariff taxes Trump's been implementing? Because back in the day, before taxes were crazy, remember we went to war for taxes. And today we're probably paying triple what we were paying then. And, what if we went to war over that shit? And today we just take it. And it's like, why? Why do we allow it? And I kind of lost where I was going with that one.
I know. That was, like the one thing that people don't see is, if you talk about kind of the socialism and like healthcare for everyone, I would love healthcare for everyone, but here's the problem with it. This up in Canada, they have healthcare. If you, let's say you have to have surgery, you get put on a list and you might have to wait months and months to get in to have surgery. Where here in the United States, unfortunately, depending on the kind of insurance you have, you can walk right in and
it's a point, but I've seen the fault in that because my father didn't have insurance and he went in like 5-6 years ago with this back pain and they said it was nothing. He was just getting older. Today he's got stage 4 and is given months to live.
Right.
And it's like, and the doctor is pissed because she's like, if I could have just given him the scans, but no, the scanner that they had that could have ran it is owned by a whole nother place and they're not allowed to use it.
And that's where there's a pendulum, it swings all the way left, all the way right. That's where we need to figure out where the best way that we can, where it swings in the middle and everybody can get help. But then, there's going to have to be someone has to pay for it. and that's where like Obamacare, where that was supposed to be fueled is by the youth,
That was a shit job.
by the youth of America that says, oh yeah, if they who are healthy buy insurance, it's going to put a big money pool that where people that can't afford it, and so, but that never worked, and that's, that gets way off track of where we're at, but
No, I dug into the insurance thing because I was there for years with the one company I was working for. I was paying, it was like $6,700 a year on my half, and then my employer had to pay the other half, of course. And I went to the hospital once out of the 4 years that I was paying all that, and I got a $1,400 bill, and it's like, I called them. Why am I getting a $1,400? Oh, well, you got this deductible, see, and we didn't pull the whole thing. We're not going to hit you with the other. So the next time we'll give you your next. And it's like, you're telling me I've given you for the past 4 years damn near $7,000, and you're going to hit me with a $1,400 bill? Like, who the hell do you think you are? And it's like, well, that's just the way it works. That's
Right.
what, I was like, it needs to be. I'm a firm supporter and believer, and it's time to abolish, do what our forefathers said. Eventually, we're going to become corrupt again. We're going to have to abolish the government and reestablish the powers of checks and balances. Of course, we don't have any for the people anymore, I feel, with the way it is. When it comes to insurance, I see it like Jules, my wife. She paid for her own health insurance through work. Somehow, with that marketplace shit through Obamacare, for like 2 years we were fighting with them. They were about to send her to collection seat, and she's never been late on a bill in her life. She had perfect credit until she married me, and they were about to send this huge thing to her, and she's like, "Well, you didn't fax over the right stuff." And I'm like, "I'm not the one that's supposed to fax it. That's handled between the insurance companies and the marketplace or whatever." And it was. For like a year, my wife was battling them. Luckily, my mom's crazy, and my mom had them calling and apologizing and telling them it was all taken care of within like 20 minutes. I don't know how she did it. I don't know what she can do, but my mom, if she wants to, she can make people's life hell. I don't know how that is.
Sounds like a great woman.
She is, but don't get on her bad side like I am on
Oh.
right now. I've just been working so much and trying to do so much. And the fact, like, it's hard I can't be around. My pops has got the cancer. He's in and out of the hospital, and his immune system's real low. I'm working. I can't not work. It's like, I can't get over there. So I used to be the one that did a lot of stuff, and now it's hard to be the one that does a lot of stuff, and it's just, I don't know.
I get it.
So we'll move on to something less so serious. What do you think about these fucking aliens, dude? Please tell me you've seen it.
The aliens.
Yeah, about 6 months ago, CNN, the Pentagon released the 3 videos of the unidentified flying objects.
Yeah.
They said they had recovered unearthly made vehicles.
Right.
And then the space chief of Israel, the top chief of security of space in Israel last week, came out and said that aliens are real, that they've been real, that he doesn't care what you guys say. He's got all these degrees and all these, like, credentials, and he is the top space chief of security in Israel, and said there is aliens. It's hard for the human brain to even comprehend what they are. Americans, and Trump was supposedly going to tell us about them, and the aliens said no. And this was last week in the news. I was like, are you? And it's just not going nowhere. I'm not hearing nothing.
Well, of course, anytime there's something that's really important, it gets squashed. It's like what popped into my head is the Robin Williams movie, the Vietnam movie that he was in, Good Morning Vietnam, and the little teletype, in the back, and the 2 dudes, and they're like got the black marker, like, well, everything marking out what you can say. That's government to protect us, keep us stupid. And are there aliens? Hell yeah, there are, because there's no way if you
statistically,
mathematically, the amount of galaxies that are out there that we're the only ones, with upright, smart beings. I don't believe so, because there's got to be smarter people than the greeters at Walmart,
Yeah. Well, I mean, just if you go by the Big Bang Theory and you see we're like, what, 4 billion years? There was 4 billion years before
right.
it became, that's a lot of time.
That's and another movie reference that it kind of put everything in perspective, and it kind of blew my mind when I started really deep thinking it was the end of Men in Black, where the aliens are playing with marbles, and it's like one marble is the galaxy, and it's our galaxy. When they're kind of pulling back, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh my god,
We are just part of a bigger.
we
That's
yeah,
a big theory being introduced right now, that we're part of a living organism that we don't realize it. Like we're just like an atom, a chromosome inside.
That's where, and if you want to go deeper than that, that's where all these wars and everybody fighting and bickering over bullshit, where if you put it in a big perspective, who gives a rat's ass? We all should be working together. If we all worked together, loved each other, helped each other out, we would not need any kind of support from anyone, because whatever whatever I have, it would be shared. Yeah, there still would be, there would still be a hierarchy, but it come down to everybody would be taken care of.
I asked this question to a lot of the people I've had on. What do you think if every government out there, every country, took the money that we spend on researching and building things to kill humans, for 1 year, we just made them sit the fuck down and just shut the fuck up, time out, sit down, all you generals and colonels, just you guys gonna sit the fuck down. We took all that money, put it in a big pile, and we got the smartest engineers, tech guys, everything. Where do you think it would take us with that amount of money in just a year? What do you think we could do?
We could do anything. You could. Here's the thing: you could cure the common cold, which could probably be cured now, but the pharmaceuticals don't want that to happen. You could do whatever needed to be done. That's the whole thing. Is we as a society sometimes can't even think bigger than what the bubble we live in. And a lot of people like their bubble, but there's a lot of people that know there's more to life. And and so, yeah, anything can be done. I mean, anything.
Okay.
You couldn't even, there's things that, this is something that, like, get a group of guys, guys, girls, whatever, and sit there for a whole night, drink, have a little smoke and go deep into that and come up to what if we could have all the resources in the world, what could we do with it? Because that would be what you're saying. Yeah. If you had all the resources in the world, because if you're talking all the money spent on defense, that's more money, that's a bigger dollar amount that we can really even think about.
And you said something that I am a firm believer in. I forget where I read it. I always read the science articles that are released. I can't understand half the stuff they're saying because of the literature of it.
Yeah,
but I can grasp enough to understand. And one of them said that everything we base stuff off of, people don't realize is a theory, because we don't truly know anything. We can't comprehend it. For what the universe and what these laws of our 3D realm of living, and we can't comprehend. Our brains aren't able to even imagine. But in the same sense, is if we can imagine it, we can build it.
Oh, absolutely.
And I do believe in that. Like,
well, just think of, we only use 7 to 10% of our brain matter.
Yes, they're learning though that it's we use all of our brain, but at a time it's only 7% at different points. They've been like I said, I geek out on some of this stuff.
Right.
I don't know why. It's because I live in the middle of nowhere and I get to read. And I don't read. I listen to audiobooks. A lot of audiobooks. I don't know if that counts as reading.
Sure it does.
If I read, I don't comprehend it. I have ADHD, so I'll read a page 10 times and be like, oh, I can't remember.
Totally. I'm with you on that one.
So I can listen to this stuff while I'm at work because I'm just pretty much a robot at work. I know what I'm doing. I'm just going with the flow, and I'm in that kind of zone of being able to absorb as much information as I can. And I'm always into like the stuff that they're learning about the brain, the declassified documents that the science that they released back in the like early 2000s about the ESP and the actual brain, the power of the brain and the frequencies, the energies that it produces. And it goes off into like the ionosphere, and there's like there could have possibly be in Akashic records of knowledge, like Nikola Tesla was discussing that he was able to said he could tap into, and all this other stuff. And it was like, for the longest time, that's like, oh, whatever, that's magic. That's just bullshit. And now you're seeing declassified shit about these Pat Price, this remote viewer that was able to look at a document with launch codes on it in another state in Langley, Virginia, in a file cabinet. And he was able to write the actual documents down from remote viewing. It's like, is this like the men to stare goats? Is that what they're doing to me? Are they pulling my leg? Like, and it's like, no, that's where the movie came from. I was like, for the longest time, they're like, it's all conspiracy. It's all. Now I think a lot of us are like, oh, what's real? Like, right. What is real? Because you can definitely tell it's scientists. It's a neurophysicist and a physicist that the CIA employs to dive deep into if psychic abilities are actually real, if there's anything into it. And by the end of the conclusion, they said yes, and that you can be trained, and every human has the ability to, especially if you're into the Kundalini yoga meditation thing, as they kept referencing to that. And Bob Monroe Institute out in Carolina, it's this whole like program you can take, and he teaches you how to supposedly astral project, all by using hemi-syncing the brain waves up from like line them both up as beta, because one left side is a different frequency than the right side, and if you can sync them up by making the two submit to each other, you're now able to actually tap into 100% and do things that have always been considered conspiracy or what is it, pseudoscience. And they're just, the more and more that they release, it's so fascinating. When it took me down like probably 20 TED Talks of these guys, and it's like, the more I read this stuff, I learn. I was like, okay, now I understand what that is, and I go back and I can read some of this stuff I've read before, and it's like, oh, that's what, I get it now. Maybe if that one bong rip, I would have understood it a little better. But it's crazy. And
well, it what I said earlier goes along with what you were just talking about. We can do anything we want. It's all about being able to harness our brain and laser focus on what our goal is. Our limitations are only set by ourselves, not anyone else. That's where when I hear people talk about, oh, I grew up, in the slums, I had nothing. I can't ever do anything. That's your own perception. You can do anything. It doesn't matter a white privilege or if you're black or whatever. I've seen some of the greatest businessmen come from the slums. African Americans that really made a difference. And there's, so it doesn't matter your color, your creed, if you have dreads or not. If you want something in life, you can have it. Anytime in my life, if I wanted something, I got it. I mean, every single time. If, sure, would I like to have a big pile of money? Yeah, but I really don't want to work that hard to have to do it, Yeah. If I was really that greedy and wanted all that, like, okay, if I won the lottery, won the Powerball tonight, that would be awesome. I'd probably give most of it away.
Yeah.
And that's, my wife has actually told me, she goes, I would have to divorce you if you won the lottery, so I'd get half the money and then when you blew all yours, because I would be one of those people, like, I would find out what someone needed and just take care of it.
You want to see everyone around you be just as successful as you.
Yeah. It's because it's no fun being. I've been in a
Very
situation
lonely up
where,
top.
yeah, because I've been wealthy, and I've been very dirt poor, and I've been just as happy being poor than I was wealthy. There's always problems, no matter what level you're at. So that's where, because at one of my wealthiest parts, I was the most suicidal, depressed I've ever been. And it's because I felt not worthy to have the money. And so that's why when I started learning about life coaching and to help other people, I figured out all the crap, not all, a good part of the crap that's wrong with me, and why I sabotaged myself in business life, because I'd get to a certain thing and then a level, and I'm like, I got scared. And that's where I can tell when people are like in a level in business, I see their fear, because I've been there. And that's where a lot of us, going back to the brain, a lot of us don't want to see.
Yeah,
We like our blinders on.
turn our heads.
Yeah.
I
And
agree.
that's if someone said, yeah, Dennis Rodman is a alien, like on, Men in Black, people would actually freak out. I think he probably is. But anyway, but that's where we have to accept where we're at. And if you don't like your situation, you're the only one to get you out of that situation. Because there's a lot of bad situations, when you talk about if you want to get dark, domestic violence, and, the woman can't get out of her own way because she doesn't know what to do and she's afraid there's no other things. There's always a choice.
Yeah. I agree completely with a lot of it. You actually just hit on. I'm at that point right now. Like I came from. My mom still lives in the same basement apartment, 2-bedroom apartment with meth being cooked around there. I don't know what I get the $300 rent or whatever for a 2-bedroom is great, but the neighborhood is just horrible. And it's where I grew up. Cops were regularly in the building. Just 10 years ago, I did 2.5 years, lived in a tent on the beach. That wasn't bad. I actually lived more life. I tell people all the time, I lived more life than somebody that's homeless with no responsibilities and everything. But now that I'm here, and I don't think it's just business. I think that has what you were saying goes hand in hand with life too, because right now, where I'm at in life is a lot. Most people come and see this place and they're like, "Do you live with your parents still, or like, is this really yours?" Like, it's like, yeah, and I'm terrified of losing it. That's why that's part of my motivation. But it is a darker thing. It's one of those things you want to turn your head from thinking about if you lose it, or how easily it could be taken, or I could lose it. How quick I could fuck it all up, because I know I have. I've done it so many times. There's been so many times that it's like a roller coaster. I'm up, I'm on top, I'm the man. I'm the man with a pocket full of cash, and then the very next month I'm in a tent.
Yeah,
So,
but can I ask you a personal question?
yeah.
Why? What are you afraid of about losing this? What about this makes you afraid? What's the fear in it?
Just how devastated my wife would be.
Okay.
I know she loves this place. I know that she's always wanted.
So it's her
nice house.
it's her security blanket.
Yes. Me personally, I wanted to buy 3 rental homes and rebuild them, like live in one while I was remodeling the other, and I wanted to get into real estate. And honestly, I'd much rather live in an RV with my 2 dogs and my wife and just travel and own property and do different kind of business ventures and stuff like that. Like if I hit the lottery, my first business venture would be opening a surf ranch. We have all these artificial wave pools now that they keep opening. And where I'm from on the beach, it's $1 billion industry a year, just the surf industry with all the brands and all the different, surfboard. I mean, I remember buying surfboards every couple of months. Yeah, they're over $1,000, and I know guys that would regularly buy them, and equipment like that and all that. And it's just like that's a lot of money that the anywhere that's not next to water is missing out on.
Right.
And the way Kelly Slater set up his ranch, it's like it's got like this big huge condo on it. People can rent a room for the night. They have a surf place that you can rent your boards, wetsuit, whatever you need, and then you have an endless artificial wave that's always pumping. And they are now having actual like tournaments and stuff at these places because they don't have to send their team or their guy out, because a lot of these surf teams have to send their pro surfer out, put them up in a hotel for 3 weeks during the time the tournament's supposed to be. And out of those 3 weeks, when they see the best waves is when they compete. Now they don't have to do that.
Right.
They
Yeah.
can be
it's
like,
all
this is the
artificially
day
done.
it's here.
Yeah.
And
You know exactly what the wave's going to do.
the Texas one, because they made surfing a Olympic sport last time around, they built this huge one in Texas. And it's all done by like air cannons, so they can, artificial intelligence, I guess, can look up waves in Hawaii and replicate them.
Oh,
With
that's
this
awesome.
Air cannons and the way it goes off. Oh yeah, and that would be my first business venture. It may fail, but I'd be like, I'm the guy that opened a surf. And you'll see I always say, 50 years, you'll see professional surfers coming out of places that were nowhere near an ocean, and because of these machines and where it's going to go if we keep continuously growing. Because I don't know, 10, what we're at, 12 years now that we've been in a bull market, and it hasn't come down, hitting record highs.
Right.
It is usually every 7 we have a nice correction, give us a dip.
Yeah. Well,
I thought it was going to go down on Trump last election. I was like, who
Nope.
wants to take the presidency right now? And at this point, I'm like, you should have put the Asian guy in. He knew math. Like, he knew math, and we need math. Like, I'm sorry. I liked it, Yang. He was the only one that ever answered any questions straight up. He was like, well, we ran the test. We ran a bunch of analysis, me and my team, and this is what we found. And this is the only way to fix it. And they just hated hearing that. He never went into the, it's because we got to get Trump out of the White House. Let's get him out and then worry about these things. No, he's like, well, we looked into that, and this is what we found. And he always had numbers and research to back it up. And I was like, that's what we need. We need a young, geeky Asian guy to come fix our books. Because if you look at our books, what are we now? Almost 30 trillion in debt. Yeah. Mathematically, it's impossible to even pay. They can't even figure out how to pay the interest alone. Mathematically, it's impossible. Yeah. Let alone the debt. And it's like, when's it gonna come down? That's what I always do. Every time I'm looking at the stocks, I'm just like, it's gonna come down.
Oh, it is. Well, and the next crash will be. That's the problem. We're with this pandemic. We're in such a fragile state now. If the house of cards, if one more thing, that's why the government is controlling the interest rates, which is, making the market stay up. It's all artificial. It's yeah. And that's the thing. If you come in and try to fix things, even for the good, we're going to have such a crash of biblical portions, dogs living with cats. Honestly, that's if the way I look at it. And that's why you just need to start worrying about. That's why so many people are going, oh, I got ammo, I got food. And, people like you who live in the middle of nowhere are going to be the ones that survive because, you have the resources to go in your backyard and hunt.
Yeah, I've got 5 acres, and everybody around me is sitting on 5 or 10 acres. I can walk naked outside if I want to.
Yeah, no one wants to see that, Brad.
There might be 1 or 2.
Yeah, man, you married her, and
no, she doesn't want to see it. She married me for the, I don't know why, for the weed, probably. But
that's funny.
I agree. I went out and bought when I seen it getting bad. I have a couple different guns, but that's because I live on 5 acres and snakes are pretty bad. So I just got a couple shotguns, and I did go buy a handgun. and it was ridiculous to go get a handgun. Because I grew up in the South. I've always been around guns. Learned how to shoot at like 8 years old. Got my first gun at like 9 on Christmas Day. It was I believe it or not, I am kind of country. I know how to operate a John Deere better than most of the boys out here in Missouri. But the people that were out there getting it, like I thought it was a joke about a lot of the liberals or leftists or whatever they call them, trying to get a gun and being upset about the waiting period. I was like, did you really think there wasn't a waiting period? Like, did you really think it was that easy to come in here? And you think they're going to just give a guy like me a gun on the first day without checking my name? And it was all over the news. That was a big complaint I read that the gun owners were having. It was like, we having people come in here being very rude to them, because they're trying to get a gun and they want it now.
Right.
These, what do they call them, Karens and stuff, are making their husbands go get guns and they don't want to go home without one. And they're like, what do you mean I got to have a background check? It's like, yeah, you voted for it. You put that in play. But I agree into the gun control, that there should be some gun control. I don't want anyone to think that I'm one of those people. I do think there is an issue with that too.
Yeah, well, I think we got off the subject of the economics and of
it's gotten ugly.
and that's our.
What do you think is going to happen in January when that mortgage? Basically, they've halted people from having to pay their mortgage until January, and that's 19 million that are like more than two mortgages behind.
This is where it's going to really shit's going to hit the fan, because that's the whole thing. They're going to come, and because most people don't understand is they're going to want it paid back in full right then.
Yeah.
So if you have several months of, you'd say it's just $1,000, new math, how many people have, I got, that weren't earning any money are going to come up with $5,000. So people are going to have to do it. And if it's enough of them, they'll extend it or do, but if they go and what they can't do is say, oh, we're just going to forgive it, because then all the people that have been paying are going to come and go,
yeah,
like you're gonna,
it's like the canceling college debt argument.
Yeah, exactly.
But
there's
we paid ours, and we could have taken it.
Yeah.
I get the people that can't. I believe I've looked at the situation, and the best thing that they could do is just, all right, what are you, 6 months behind, or 6 months that you weren't able to pay? Well, your lease or mortgage is now 6 months longer. We're going to tack it onto the back end now.
And that's what they need to do. Hopefully they do that. But, that's where the greed, these banks, they're suffering too. So, but
they would have to do the overnight repo market. The overnight repo market was happening right before the pandemic, where they were borrowing trillions of dollars just to keep their books equal. Maybe you can explain it to the way I understand. Why would I looked at it like this? When everything was happening, everyone's got to pay their bills. They want everyone to stay home and stop working. Okay, so that means they're not going to be able to pay their loans to the banks that they owe. So why did we give $5 trillion that's allowed to be leveraged to the banks that the people own, instead of giving the money to the people to keep them whole, to keep paying the loans to the banks? That would have kept everything stable and going. Is it that simple? Was it that simple of a fix, instead of giving the banks trillions of dollars? Because with the money they gave to the banks, you could have gave us like $20-something thousand, I think the math was, every adult tax-paying citizen. That would have gotten us through.
Okay. My theory on that, if they did that, because the banks looked at it and said, we can't trust these people, they'd be going out buying new cars, buying more debt,
stimulating the economy.
Yeah, but and then still not saying, well, I don't got no money to pay.
How are they going to, if the banks are smart enough, then all right, we're not going to give these people these loans. We gave them $20-something thousand to get through the thing. Don't give them loans to add more debt to it. They can only, if they want to go buy some used cars, fine.
That's where this.
Because they already have tightened up on giving out loans. Even though the rates are low, they're tightened down. They're not just giving them willy-nilly.
Yeah, but that's, it's it's damned if you, damned if you don't. You know, if the best thing is say, you know, wipe out 20,000 of debt, you know, give it to the bank, but let's say, okay, you don't have to pay for 6 months. You don't have to pay your mortgage. You don't have to pay 6 months of your car payment, you know, and then if there's money left over, then it's a stimulus to you. But the banking system and the government system, it was I couldn't believe they actually pulled off getting all those checks out as fast as they did. And like Missouri was one of that's like no one should screw with Missouri. We were one of the first states in the country to get that $600 a week for unemployment out.
Yeah, that came in.
And you know, get the website. Just the website alone was a major, you know, overtaking. So, you know, I think they did the best they could for as fast as they had to react. And that's the whole thing. It's like, you know, back in March when they said, "Oh, shut down," you know, I was able to get that extra $600, which was great because, you know, it didn't cover everything, but it covered most.
I saw a lot of guys that got it and just sat at home and played video games. A lot of my friends, and it's like I got that and went and got a job under the table, moving. With my buddy had a moving company. I was like, I just get paid under the table and make that until my boss calls me and tells me to come back to work. And that's
you know, and that's awesome.
I mean,
but not everybody has that ability or the
care, the pride.
They didn't. You know, that's why when someone comes to me and say they're down on their luck and they're hard up, I look at their whole picture of, well, what are you doing to get out of it? Because most of them aren't doing, oh, I don't know what to do. I can get a job, I guess, at McDonald's.
On a post.
Yeah, you know, I've always been able to make money no matter what situation. Might not be all the money I need. It's like, you know, and I'm still going in debt with the club being closed because I still have the lease and everything. But it's, you know, it's one thing that's where I asked for, hey, if you want to support the club, that money goes to, you know, offset costs. So, and get me, because I went in a big hole, spend everything. So anyway, but that's the thing is, if, you know, how are you utilizing your skills? Like it bothers me when people go, I can't find a job.
Yeah, that does too. Because I get Indeed. Just get on Indeed.
I mean, you can get a job, and you can get, you know, you can go work for Chick-fil-A. Most of them are paying $13 or $14 an hour, which is pretty good. It's you know, it's not.
My first job was $5.10
don't even
at the Six Flags.
I think my minimum wage was $3.25 when I started.
Yeah, ours was $5.10, and I got a 10-cent raise when I turned 16.
Wow.
Yeah. Woo. My last raise, I went out and celebrated. Boss gave me $5. I was like, I ain't never gotten $5 raise before. That put me in another tax bracket, baby.
Yeah. There you go.
Yeah, no, I see you, and I've always listened to you talk. Believe it or not, I eavesdrop a lot when you're talking about business, just because I've always wanted to own my own. I think I told you, my wife, no, she doesn't. Like, she's been offered to buy out the Sweet and Sassy.
Right.
You know, her boss says that maybe soon she's thinking about. And my wife's just like, no, I'm not. I'll run it for you, but I'm not running it for me. And I was like, you're making her all the money. You do everything. I mean, not everything. Her boss is good. They're.
You know, and that's something I would ask her of, like, why does she not want to? What is she afraid of? Because most of the time it's something that
the responsibility.
Yeah.
That's what she always tells me.
Yeah. Well, she really has a responsibility.
That's what I keep saying. I think you're the one that already deals
I do
with
the same thing.
Customers.
Well, with Nick, you know, it works for me. You know, I told him, I go, if something happened to me, the club would be yours and Katie's. And that just overwhelms him. You know, I don't want to. It's like, dude, you're the only one that knows how to run everything. You know.
Yeah. Him and Katie already, you know.
They do all the work. I don't need to be there.
Set up right now.
Yeah, I don't need to be there. You know.
How did you meet Nick?
Nick came in, and that's on November 14th of 2019. He stumbled into the club and did open mic, and afterwards he kind of stayed and was just wanting to help, and he just kind of just did more and more. He started cleaning the tables, and then I was like, this guy's he's got it,
Yeah.
and so it just organically came together, and
That's awesome.
yeah, Nick,
Nice.
he's one of the greatest guys. He's got the
Yeah.
biggest heart, and that's where when we get the thing making money again, he's going to benefit huge. Because I would love to just have him quit because he hates that call center job, and
Oh, is that what he's doing?
yeah,
Yeah, it's
and
probably.
just work for the club, and then I could walk away and know
Start something
it's
else.
know it's in decent hands. There's he almost burnt it down once, but
What? I gotta hear that. Was he trying to cook?
no, it was with batteries for the mic. He totally had a brain fart, and there's I got rechargeable batteries,
Yeah.
and they go in a holder that goes into the mic, and it's got a USB. Well, he instead of putting the batteries back in the charger, he stuck it in the wall where the USB with my
Yeah.
was on the wall, and luckily it was hanging on the wall because it bent down, and because it totally melted and it bent down and broke the circuit. Otherwise, if it was like straight up and down, it would have kept going until it caught on fire. And so he carries it around all the time as a reminder. But yeah, there's Nick does some things that I just shake my head at, but I totally trust him.
Oh yeah, you meet people and you can just
Oh
tell.
yeah.
Like, and Nick's definitely one of those guys that's just genuine. He's genuinely a nice guy, and you can. There's a lot of people I meet, especially in comedy, just because there's a lot of sketch balls out there, and I've always been that way. If once I become friends or get to know someone and we actually would consider each other friends, I'll do whatever, and I want to do whatever, like you were saying. But before that, and I don't know you, I'm very standoffish.
Sure.
Keep people at distance and just watch and observe for a while first, because
Well, I think that's a life lesson, because you get hit on the head so many times. You're like, I got to, pick and choose who my friends are. And it gets harder and harder throughout, as you get older. You get really choosy on who you want to open up to and who you want to put in your little circle, because those people, it's, especially in the comedy, because there are some people I don't want at the club and I don't want to be around, because they tear you down. And you always want to put yourself, it's like Jim Rohn's 5 people, surround yourself with 5 people that you want to be more like, that's going to lift you up. So you always want to gravitate to people that are where you want to be, not,
right. I'm a.
and that's where, you a lot of those toxic friends
You don't
got
want
to
to be
get.
the smartest in the room because you have nowhere to go.
Exactly.
You wanna
And
be the
there's
dumbest.
something huge to say that, with that being said.
Yeah, once I heard that, I was like, that makes a lot of sense.
Mm-hmm.
Because somebody wants to be the main center of attention and know it all, but you're not learning nothing. You're not learning nothing by listening to your self-talk.
Yeah.
And that's probably, I think, the biggest problem that we're having today is a lot of people only listen to themselves in Facebook memes. If it's not on a meme and didn't come up out of their own brain, they don't agree.
Yeah.
Or they're
Well,
whatever.
it's those people that sit at the bar all the time, the same guys, the old guys, which it's always fun to hang out with them, but you don't want to align yourself with them. It's good to sit around and listen to the bullshit. That's one thing I love at the club. It's like all these guys and talking shit, and it's like it cracks me up, but I don't base my life on what these bar flies are doing.
I had to learn it the hard way. When I was 17, I got my first real job doing termite and moisture control for my sister's boyfriend. He owned his own little pest control company, and I thought he was the coolest guy. You know, he wasn't. He was a huge asshole, real big piece of shit. Like, but I didn't even pay attention to that because he had a fancy truck. He was cool. He was paying me good, and he was like a motocross racer and all this other stuff. And he had everything I thought I wanted, and he still lived at home with his mom. And it was like, I don't know why I looked up to him, but I know that for a few years I was a really big piece of shit because of it. And surrounding yourself with the right people, I think, is a lesson I learned on the hard way. But then again, I was always so generous too. There's a lot of people that I considered friends for a long time that I should just cut out.
Right.
You know,
It's those toxic people that you don't know why you're even around them. And it's like,
I learned why, because I would work and pay the bills. And I had my own place at 17. I always, you know, besides the tent days, I always had my own place. And I always had a group of friends that didn't have a job sleeping at my place, you know, drinking all my booze. And
right.
It just.
Well, that's, you know, there's givers and there's takers, you know.
Yeah. I really just want that. I'd love to have millions. I think about it all the time, but I really don't care about millions when I break it down. I just want to be able to, if I see something that I want,
yeah,
that's all. Like, I don't want Lambos. I'm happy with the house I have. Maybe enough to go buy some new lumber to build an addition on.
Right.
You know.
That's, you know, and that's the whole thing. I'm with you too. You know, I'd like to be able to take my family on a nice vacation, you know, without worrying about, I'm not making money today or this week. And to be able to do that. And that's easily done, but it's hard to do. It's you know, it's just, you know, being at my age, I don't have the drive I had when I was 30. Yeah. And that's why I love to get into, you know, younger people's minds of, hey, if you really want to be successful, I know how to do it. You know, I know how to help you do it and accomplish anything. But most people don't want to do the work. That's where when I was getting some clients with doing business coaching, and my biggest struggle was the people said they were going, I'll do that. And you set low goals, nothing really hard, and they wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
They just flat out wouldn't do it. And I'm like, well, I can't work with you if you're not going to do it. It's useless to take your money. Yeah. And so now I only help people that come to me and say, I want this. Yeah. You know, I want to get to wherever, this level. And then we figure, is that level really what you want? Because most people in their heads think they want, it's like they're saying, I want to be a millionaire. Well, why do you want to be a millionaire? You know, and it comes out that they don't need $1 million.
Yeah, that's how it was for me. Like, and then I realized that $1 million ain't shit, because if I got to that point, I'm not going to pay attention to how much money I really have.
No, and that's the people who are wealthy that have millions of dollars have no idea how much money they actually have. No. Or do they care about it? The first thing in life you have to worry about with people, if all you do is concentrate on money, you will never have any money. What you got to concentrate is on who you are and where you want to go, and figure out that path. It's like, you know, there's, you know, the I always reference movies, City Slickers. I don't know if you remember that movie, Billy Crystal in it and Jack Palance, the old man. But it's a great little life, and it's a good comedy, City Slickers. But anyway, the old man, Curly, he goes, do you want to know the secret of life? And these guys are sitting around a fire, you know. And Billy Crystal goes, yeah, I really want to know. He goes, it's this one thing. And Billy's like, his finger? I don't know, but and what he was getting at, it's the one thing. And when you can figure out what that one thing is and focus on it, that's where the good stuff comes from. That's where, you know, if you're passionate on that one thing,
the money will come.
The money will come. You don't have to worry about the money anymore. it's just figuring out what that one thing is. I used to talk to my friends when I was really just lost in my own life, head, whatever. It's like, oh, I feel like I'm like a half inch away from where I need to be. But I didn't know what the half inch even meant. And the half inch was being content and happy who I was. Because most of us go around this world trying to be somebody they're not.
Yeah, but the person that they think is in their
They,
head.
yeah, well, they're trying to go. It's one thing to admire stuff and to, if you want to be, you know, I don't know. I can't, all the big people just went on my head. If there's someone that you really admire, you don't want to be him, but you want to do the steps, or her, you want to do the steps to get to where they are. That's where if there was someone that, like a contractor you really admire, you see them as what you would want to be. You go to them, it's like, how do I be you? No, it's like, what did you do?
Yes.
Here's where I'm at. What did you do to get to where you are? Can you give me? Every entrepreneur I have ever met always wants to talk about their success. And if someone comes to them and asks them sincerely, they're going to tell them, if they're trying to get, trying to find the way, the shortcut. No, if you're going to do a shortcut, you ain't ever going to make it.
Yeah, no, I've sat down with a few people. My wife's guy that runs her IRA, and I just wanted to talk to him. And I was like, look, I'm not going to pick your brain and expect information and knowledge from you for free. He works at Edward Jones or whatever. It's like, go out to dinner, buy a few drinks, and I'll pay. And it's like, let me pick your brain then. I was like, because you shouldn't give nothing for free, especially that amount of knowledge. But you're right. They do want to just talk about, most entrepreneurs do. And I think that's anybody that, not everybody, but a lot of people, when they do something successfully, that they stick and did that one thing that they put their mind to and made it work, they want to tell everybody. They want to shout it at the rooftops.
Mm-hmm.
And I wish, I've wanted to start a company and do that. And I totally get what you mean by not being somebody, like, you don't want to be them. You don't want to be this person that's, this company's owner that you think it doesn't. You just want to do the things that they've done correctly.
Right.
And that's...
learn from them, their mistakes.
Yeah. Yeah. I think that's the biggest thing that nobody does is learn from others' mistakes.
Mm-hmm.
Luckily, I learned from my sister's mistakes. Anytime she was older than me, she'd fuck up, and I know not to do that. But
Katie says that about her older sisters. Her older sister is like, she's like, yeah, that's why I was so good, because I just didn't want to get in trouble, because Teresa always got in trouble.
Yeah, we saw the backlash on our older siblings. It was like,
right.
Who's your who was it when you were, in your most successful but darkest place? Who was the person that was your life coach? Who was your mentor? Who did you find or read? Book did you read? Or
I read or audibled multiple books. What comes to my head, The Big Leap.
Big Leap?
Yeah, that was really good. It's more real estate. It was written for real estate, but...
Because I met your real estate friends at one of our shows. I sat there and talked to them for like 10 minutes one night out in the parking lot. They came to one of the shows, and they were really nice. I didn't even know you were into real estate. Didn't you have like
I had a mortgage company.
A mortgage company? Didn't you have a big trucking company of some
I
sort
did,
too?
yeah.
Shipping and receiving?
I built a trucking company from a little tiny courier company into a multi-million-dollar company.
Did you fail at all ever? Is there any?
Oh, I failed every freaking time. I fail every day. That's the thing is about failure is you only truly fail is when you quit. The trucking company was great. That was one that I got screwed. If I would have known now with life coaching back then, I would have been able to work it out. But I just like, fuck you, and I'm done.
Like a really complex. Like I said, I delivered, and I used to have to drive. I had a big refrigerated truck, and I'd have to go in there to these big, huge refrigerated warehouses, and it was just all the trucks and the amount of product and stuff changing hands, and I was like, that's a lot of, what's the word? A lot of linguistics. Is that the
Logistics.
word? Logistics that goes along with it.
Yeah.
So the routing and the timing and like, it's like, damn, I just need my little Ford F-450 refrigerator truck. I just need my couple pallets of shrimp, and then I see these guys.
And it was where I really started growth in the trucking is I got the first Amazon contract when they came to St. Louis to taking had box trucks that took from a distribution hub in Maryland Heights to all the post offices in
Oh wow!
St. Louis. I wasn't the only company. There was multiple companies, but I was the first company to get involved with that, and also that led to I was bringing drugs. I was pharmaceuticals from Kansas City.
My listeners are like, drugs. Now we're talking. Woo!
Yeah. And I had the contract for like all the Walgreens, most of the hospitals, and that was huge.
Yeah, that is big.
Yeah,
that's bigger.
So it's and that was the downfall, and that's the whole thing of where, because people are like, well, why do you go back into that? And I can, but I don't want to because
the Amazon's kind of cornered their own thing with the flex drive.
Yeah, the flex drivers, and I wouldn't go after an Amazon account. Right. But I also worked because we ran 24/7.
Oh, okay.
I worked all day and then be up in the middle of the night. Dispatchers calling me, trucks not showing up. I don't know how many times I had to, and I could get, and see, that's one of the greatest things, and that's why you talk about me being at the club and supporting you guys. If a driver didn't show or there was a problem, I'd go get in a truck and go do it myself.
Yeah.
And wake up at 2:30 in the morning, get up and be.
That's something
There's not many owners that did that or do that.
No, there's not. And I feel I've been something. It was actually I forget where I read it, but an owner that expects more of an employee to do more than he does. Like the owner should care more about his company.
Oh yeah.
Than he expects his employee to care.
Well, it's a leader mentality. If I am not willing to do everything that I expect you to, how can I expect you to do anything?
With pride.
Yeah. And that's like when I got in a fight with my partner and his family, and I'm like, if you cut my salary, I'm gone. I'm leaving, and things are gonna follow me because they were my accounts, and most of the people there didn't even know. Even though I was a minority owner, I was a majority contributor.
Right.
And so when I went to another trucking company, I actually was going to go. I went there to be their operations manager. And when they saw what I did, they go, we're going to let you start a whole new division. You do whatever you want. We will give you anything you want. We just want to duplicate what you did. And so I did that. And a lot of drivers,
so I can take it.
a lot of drivers came and business came, and then I got sued and it got stupid.
What, for competing?
Non-compete. Yeah. And then nothing ever happened with that. But it got to a point though, I wasn't having fun with it. It became like a job. And that's why I've ever told anyone I've worked for, I will work for you until I'm not having any fun, and you'll know it. And I'll tell you, I'm not having any fun, and we're going to part friends. And that's because one of my kind of things I like to say, I have never applied for a job in my life. Yeah. I was either someone came to me and said, I want you to do this. I started my own company doing what I wanted to do, or I started talking to someone and they're like, hey, would you like to work for us? Because I like the way you think. And so that's something that I'm kind of really proud of myself for doing, because it goes back to, I believe that anyone can do anything if you put your mind to it. And the people that say, I can't, will never, you know.
Yeah, no, yeah. There's the saying, many people never fail, but that's just because they don't try. You know,
Right.
there's a lot of people that aren't considered failures just because they've never tried anything to fail at.
Yeah. And that's
And
that's the whole thing about doing a business. You should never be afraid to start a business. You know, the fearful thing is not being prepared for the business.
right, yeah, no, that's where I've been at these past. The guy I've been working for, especially now, he doesn't care. All he cares about is getting somebody to sign that contract. He doesn't care about the workers, like. And I'm just making somebody a bunch of money. I'm actually at the point that where I'm dealing with customers. I get there and they're either unhappy or they've got questions, and it's like, why isn't this? I'm just the builder. I'm the guy that's out here smoking, cussing, building, construction worker. Now I got to put on the yes ma'am, no sir, kind of do the customer service thing, which I enjoy. I can confuse somebody over the phone. You never know it was me. I can get real professional real quick. But I feel like he should be doing this. All these answers should have been, all these questions should have been answered in the beginning when they asked him the first time through emails and stuff like that. And I've seen a lot of guys that run businesses like that, and I know there's a lot of stuff that I would do differently. And I think I could benefit that way. But I do know that they're doing something right. They're making money still. Like somehow, I don't know how, the guy I work for has got 1 star. I just realized. 1 star on Yelp and Google.
Because most people don't ever check anything. They go off of, it's usually a referral.
Yeah, right.
And if it's a good
Google ad.
referral, that's great. If it's a bad one, they don't get the job.
Yeah, this guy, I don't know. He's putting a lot of things in perspective. Because it made me, as soon as I came out, I just wanted to work. I just wanted to do the work,
Sure.
make the money. I was like, I could frame, and I'll go in and frame whoever, I don't care. And I got there, and all he has is laborers that don't know anything about really framing. So now he moves me into project supervisor and just hands me the blueprints. And luckily I knew what I was doing. I mean, and luckily I'm not scared to pick up a book or Google or YouTube, because there's nothing on YouTube you can't find.
Right.
Everything. And then with building nowadays, you can look up the materials, brand, and they have specifications on how it needs to go. And as long as you know the terminology, you should be fine. It's building houses today is kind of like Legos in a way. There's still, you still got to cut stuff to length, and it doesn't all come just snap together. But pretty much once you get that blueprint, you can see it and you can learn how to read that blueprint. It's all really easy. And I just kind of plan on starting my own thing. I want to. I've been talking to the wife. I kind of got to mention it a couple times, and they're like, "All right, babe. Well, you remember how I said I was gonna do my own thing?" And jump in. But there's just a whole aspect of things that I don't understand yet. That I'm still.
Well, look. Here's the first format that you should do. Write down exactly what your business will look like, and write it all down, and then wait a couple days and reread it and think about it, and that is your base for your business plan. And you don't ever have to, people, when it comes to business and business plans, freak out because they think it has to be this perfect thing. A business plan is what it is. It's just a plan. It's just an idea, a thought. And the best thing to do is, but if you're, I can tell you, you write things down. And so you're a writer downer. And if you write what you want, that's because then when you go back and reread it, you're like, oh my God, that won't work because of this reason. And you start visualizing, because right now, if you just keep it all in your head, your subconscious is doing the work. Your conscious is not. And so when you write it down and reread it, your consciousness goes, oh yeah, that's great. And then you can go deeper in whatever that is.
Reprogramming, basically.
Yeah. And that's the foundation. Because, okay, having a business is like building a house. if you don't have your foundation right,
Yeah.
the rest, you know, what's going to happen? The house is not going to, it's going to be crooked. It's going to be screwed up. It's probably going to fall down and kill somebody.
Yeah. Well, not mine, because
I know.
we have codes and stuff today. We have inspectors, which suck.
Yeah, I understand.
But yeah, no, I
but,
get
yeah.
exactly what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I believe that's everything. Even raising a kid to, every foundation. Like, yeah, I grew up in a lot of people would hear me say, I grew up in a poor place. But my parents had good, I didn't go hungry. A lot of people look at where I lived and grew up, and they're like, oh, it's rough. But it was, I never went hungry. Had warm, had clothes. The kids around me, though, that lived next door and stuff, they were going hungry, and their parents really didn't care. My parents were just cheap. They're just cheap, and they taught me the right things, the right foundation. They gave me the right foundation on, the best way I could say is to learn, to be able to be acceptable to information. Besides my mom, you ever meet somebody that's kind of just feel they didn't have enough growing up, or are prejudiced towards people with money?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's anytime, because I guess because they've worked as a house cleaner for these really rich people for so long. Like, I had one old guy, I forget, he told asked my dad, my stepdad, which is black, told him, called him a boy a few times, because he was running through the car to get a caddy, the cleaning caddy, and left the door open because his hands were full. He said, "You were born in a barn, boy?" And it's this older white guy, and then he threw shoes on the floor at him while he was dusting and said, "I need all these shoes shined." And as a white older man, you don't ask a black guy to shine your shoes.
No.
I'm just letting anybody, you don't do that. So, all my white people, don't ask a black person to shine your shoes. And they quit, but they look at everybody like that. Every rich person, they look at like they didn't earn it. They got lucky, or they did something bad. And like you said, I think the majority of these people didn't. They just worked hard and were consistent with one thing over and over. And that's one thing I think I had trained myself to and learned to get out of, because I took that on. Anytime I saw rich people, it was like, oh, I never looked at what they really did. I didn't notice that, this guy's a lawyer that's been researching his clients, trying for 18 hours a night. He's up for this huge court case. That's working. That's hard. That's, a lot of hours put in. He deserves the money he gets for that. Is there a lot of people out there that make money that probably, and trust fund babies or whatever, that are just got so much money from their inheritance that their money makes money? Yes. But I think most people that have enough money to where their money makes them money, earn it there, get it to there. And I had to learn that myself, because for the longest time, I just figured everyone that was rich was a criminal.
Right.
Was just a better criminal than me. That's
the best book ever to read about that is the $1 Million Mindset. And that deals with broke mindset, thinking, it goes with exactly what you're talking about, what your parents, they think only their life can be like this, like they only can live in this apartment because that is all they're worthy of. When that's totally not true. And they put themselves in that little box. And reading that book, really, like almost every chapter, I was like, oh my God. And I grew up fairly wealthy, not wealthy, but we really, lived in Lake St. Louis, in the heyday of Lake St. Louis.
Yeah, you were well off. There's just nothing wrong with that.
No, but the point of the matter is, I still had my mom had a broke mindset, because her mom was like a child of the Depression. And so they thought totally different. They always thought it's like, you could only have so much sugar. You can't waste that because, we might not be able to get any more. Well, you always can get more sugar. If not, you go to Quick Trip and steal some. Put it in your pocket.
I had a boss from the Great Depression, and he would say blocks of wood this big.
Right. Yeah. They would save every scrap of everything, and that is a broke mindset.
He's the only person I've ever seen have $1,000 bill too.
Yeah.
It was impressive. I was impressed.
Well, and that's that's the whole thing about mindset is if you want to think broke, you will always be in that broke realm.
So kind of like the Think and Grow Rich.
Yeah, it is, but it's the way the author tells it is so relatable. You'll like really get into it and go, oh my, and you'll see so many things in your life and the words you say. Because, and I'm kind of still bad at, I'll say a negative word, and that puts a negative thought out there. And talking about the whole big brain.
Yeah, the energies.
Yeah,
the negative energy.
Whatever you put out there, you receive. Right. If you're constantly going, it's totally the secret.
Which, and that's that goes to the side thing. They're learning that it's very true because they know that it's not like magnets. Opposites attract with energy. Similar energies attract each other. Positive attracts positive, negative attracts negative in that aspect. And I believe in it because there's so much, they're doing so much, they're spending millions of dollars in research, and there's so many physicists and everything like that are out there today. Like every physicist today that's anybody is in that has something to do with that end of research. Like every TED Talks physicist that comes on, all these famous physicists that are writing all these papers and peer review and stuff are finally now getting into it and aren't just writing it off. And they're realizing like there is a lot to it that we're finally able, because science, they're scientists, so they have to be able to measure whatever it is, whatever energy, they have to be able to measure it and replicate it for them to make it a proven fact. That's what science is just right. Something that you can replicate, and that now that the technology we have and scanners and all that other stuff, they're learning it's real. Just like the physicist that did all the psychic ability stuff, he was teaching these soldiers that came in, just dumb brute dudes, how to tap into remote viewing, and they were getting like 7 out of 9 of what they'll do is they'll put them in a different building in a room, and they'll give them a piece of paper with coordinates on it, and they have to like visualize these coordinates and where it's at, and they have to draw a picture of what's at these coordinates. And like after they go through their training, they're like 7 out of 9 of the times. They had a lady that was like super famous for it because she always was correct. She was like one of the Pat Prices. He was one of the most famous, I guess, of the psychics. It's really cool. I know it sounds crazy, but it's a CIA document called the Project Stargate, and it is just mind-bending and blown because you're just like, this is like a sci-fi channel shit that you see, and it's always been called pseudoscience, and I think it actually gives people, I think it'll help a lot of people that don't believe in meditation and just calming the fuck down and chilling out. If they actually have some proof and evidence that it works, maybe more people will actually get into it. Because I'm a firm believer that you just need to take a day every now and again and just like it's from comedy, just comedy alone. I go you'll notice I'll go a week or 2. I don't sign up at all because I just go that week or 2 without even thinking about comedy or going to perform. And I get my best jokes. I end up writing more. I'm able to stop thinking about and trying to find every funny joke out there.
Right.
And just let them come. And then
that's the key to life right there is if you can get out of your own head and get out of your own way, you can accomplish. But that's where most of us live our lives in our subconscious and let our subconscious say, oh, you can't do that. It's, and a lot of people don't even get that or even understand what that means. But it's like, you're in bed and all of a sudden you're kind of half falling asleep and you have this really good idea and you don't write it down. And then, then the next day you're kind of thinking about it, and that's a real stupid idea because your subconscious is going, oh my God, you don't want to do that. That's fearful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Yeah. The fear of just being, I think, wrong, or failing is a big reason people don't try and go and do these things that they want to. Nobody wants to be, unless they've just gotten content and comfortable with poverty or where they're at. I always want more and better, but I also am scared of losing the more that I've gotten. So
Yeah, and so start thinking a little bit more about that because the more you have, the more you're going to be afraid to lose of it. But there is something to saying about being content with what you have, and then let whatever life becomes, because what you and I said it earlier, what you think you want might not be what you really want.
yeah,
You might be you might have the perfect set up in the world right now and be, because you never know, you might do something and later and go, you know what, back in 2020 I had it made, even though it was a shit year, but that's the we live our life sometimes in hindsight. It's like, oh, when right now, and that's where you hear the phrase, live in the moment, because if you're not living in the moment, then you're not living at all. It's like this whole year, people are like at home, good and depressed. It's horrible because if you're staying at home, you're not living.
yeah,
And that's and I kind of catch myself doing that too. It's like, I heard someone say really recently. Actually, I think I saw it on a Survivor episode. I've been binge watching Survivor. If you
yeah.
you
That
ha-
was a huge show. I remember.
oh, it still is.
Is it still going?
Yeah. They
Oh,
just actually the last season, had to read the votes. It was this year. All Jeff Probst did it from his house in his garage. They set a whole little thing up. But anyway, the thing the guy said was fear. He goes, "Are you more afraid of dying or more afraid of living?" And if you think about that for a moment, I would say most people are afraid of living. We all have a fear of death.
yes. I had a huge fear of death for the longest time
Yeah.
until I did a psychedelics. Really, no. Like a lot of people think that's a real thing. DMT breaks your ego down to a point of it. This could completely change my life. It's not something I'm going to do very often. It's scary.
Yeah.
But it is also a beautiful, brilliant thing when you come out and you're like, wow, wow. Like it actually kind of contents. Like it shows you something else is out there.
Oh,
And
yeah.
it definitely shows.
Well, and I think that when you can relax and get down there and totally that you're in your, being able to use your brain and all your senses to the heightened, that is a magical thing. I've never done that. Would I? Yeah, probably. Um,
It's considered, the DMTs was back in the 70s considered the businessman drug because it was quick. It's only a 20-minute long thing, but it's a life lasting. Like it still sticks with me every day. Just the song that was playing when I did it, I can turn that on and just it's like not go into a trip, but remember and realize and then like remind myself like, hey, real quick, just humble yourself as far as you ain't shit in the whole aspect of everything. Like the marble game, the galaxies. That's what DMT breaks it down and helps you realize that there is a lot of stuff out here we'll never understand, but we.
do we need to understand everything? No, just accept things, man.
Well, that was my biggest fear of death. Was I always thought about what's gonna be invented, what's gonna happen when I'm gone. Like, I just wanted to know what the future was gonna be like, and that was what's the PS10 gonna be like or whatever. When I was a kid, that was what I was thinking about. Now it's a little different, more or less. It's just the average fear of death is what I was scared of, and if there was anything after that. But after doing DMT, it kind of makes you think there's got to be something after this, because everyone explains their experience the same way. You know, not everyone with acid or mushroom, they can have two different complete trips. Two people can take it, but people that take DMT, they all see very similar things and have very similar experiences. And they also, if you read someone's experience from DMT and then someone that's had a real near death experience, they line up perfectly, like the exact same thing, like the lights and the beings like that have all this love and intelligence, but it's scary, and it's so hard to explain, but it definitely
Sure.
changes.
It's
It made me
experience.
realize that it actually helped me with addiction a little bit. I'm not saying I have an addiction issue, like I've never done heroin or anything like that, but I'm addicted to the fast life, I guess. And it just made me realize, like, when I came to, I was like, that's not good. Like, it's not good for me. I'm not supposed to do that. That's going to take me down the wrong place. It's going to put my health and everything else. It was crazy, the little things that just started clicking, like boom. Like the biggest thing I got was I had to prove to my wife I was 100% into our marriage. Like, I came out thinking she was not second guessing, but didn't think I was 100% and like truly in this relationship. So I had to, that's what I got from that time. And next time maybe I'll get something else. But until I feel I've worked on that enough, I don't need to take it. I feel it's one of those. It's a medicinal thing. It's not something you're gonna. That I don't know anybody that does it regularly or recreationally. Like, that shit's so intense and crazy that it's not something you want to do around people. You don't want to see people that you don't want people to see you in that state of fear. I had one friend around and my wife, and she was like, "I've never seen like your eyes." Like, and it's like, yeah, it was. I left this. Did it right here, and none of this was here anymore. I was in
Wow.
another universe. Like, what do you think as a kid acid is gonna do to you? Things melt. It's not melting. It's everything's hyperbolic geometry that's spinning into another geometric form. And I think there's like 200 and something fields of this, and you see them all. Like, they're just boom, boom, and then you see these beings, these like dark. They call them dark entities or jackals or clowns. Some people call them jesters, and you kind of ask them, like, best way I've ever explained is you ask them, what is this crazy place? And then they grab you and they point at Earth, and you see, oh, they're like, what is that crazy place? Look at what you do on that place. What is that? Why are you like that? And you're like, you're right, that is crazy. I want to stay here with you guys. And at that point, you're like, nope, go back. And you come back too. And it sticks with you. Stuck with me for a while.
Yeah, I can tell. Wow,
I think people that are
that's deep.
facing cancers and starting to face their mortality should try it. I thought about letting my dad try it, but I don't know if he would. Like, I don't know if it would be a good thing. It could. I could see it having causing people to have mental breaks too, because it is a. I sat here probably for 2 days, just like, what the fuck? Like, how did that? What was that? And it just took me down a long. This was probably 4 or 5 months ago the last time I did it, and I haven't stopped trying to find some kind of literature and research on it. Like, it's probably a daily search I do as far as a book, or I just found like this guys from Harvard. These group of guys have been studying and researching it as far as the brain and all the different experiences, and it's just really crazy. I think there's something there. Have you ever done something or heard something or see something, and you're just like, there's something there that's beneficial?
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely. That's when I really got into life coaching. Um, and went pretty far down a rabbit hole, and it was scary because it made me realize a lot of things about myself that weren't good. And so, yeah, that's self exploration is a mind blowing.
Well, when you said um, what did you say about that? I forget how you put it, and I don't want to butcher it as far as the being happy with yourself.
Content.
Yeah. Well, I think it was Will Smith, actually. I heard him say in some kind of YouTube video or something, they said they were trying to fix his relationship with Jada or whatever. And he told her, go, and it's not something that they needed to work on together. She'd never been alone and figured out how to be happy by herself, and he had never figured out how to be happy and content with himself. And they couldn't, how can you have a happy relationship or a happy life if you can't be happy with
on your own? And that right there is why the divorce rate is so huge, is because so many people get in relationships more of a codependency instead of each bringing their best of who they are, because most people don't know who the hell they are, so they latch onto someone that fills them, so they take from you but they don't give back. And in a relationship, that's all great for a while, and then when that stops, because when people start changing in a relationship, growing, that's everybody will grow apart. If you are content with yourself and happy, and you can be with yourself, and your partner can do the same, those are the relationships that you can never break. And those are the people that, when they die, a few hours, a few days later, their partner dies, that are, 80 years old or whatever. And that is very far and few between. There's a lot of marriages that go on, or partnerships that, they stick together for the kids, or they're just content with, it becomes like a roommate situation. But that's a huge thing, to be able to go to your spouse or whatever and say, hey, I got to figure out me, but what I've learned is you got to figure out you and what makes you happy. Because I did that with my wife, and that freaked her shit out, because, and this is I probably used the worst words, is I don't need you anymore. I want you, but I don't need you.
Yeah.
Meaning, I didn't need to be her to do everything for me, or, whatever the missing piece, because I found the whole me. And, that's a whole big old thing, but goes together with what Will Smith is saying that I worked on years ago.
No, it definitely made me think that when I first heard it. And luckily it was before I got married, so I definitely did step back and look at everything. And luckily I feel we've waited a long time. We've been together 7 or 8 years, and yeah, I know more people wait longer, but I never thought I'd get married. I was not that. I was a dog, not a dog that like played women and strung them along. I was very honest, always up front. I mean, I tell them what it was, how it is. We're having fun. You don't want to take me home to meet your parents, I know. So let's just have fun and move on. But
one of the things I'm sorry I interrupt. I really don't like it when you're like, you don't want to take me. Well,
that's how I looked at myself for the long time.
Yeah, because you are, who I consider a good friend of mine, and I always appreciate you being around, and I see very highly of you. Yeah, your dreads turns off a lot of people. It freaks people out because they're like, it's the stereotype, and that's something you either have to, which I think you accept it, but like you've already mentioned, if I start a business, I got to cut my hair. Would it help? Yeah, because it it would
Give me
flatten the curve on that one.
initial introductions.
Yeah. But overall, no, man. It's like it's one of those things. If that's who you truly are, never change that. Um, so anyway, I just wanted to interrupt and
No. You've given me more information than any of these other guys, and I've been waiting for this. And that's, in all honesty, I scheduled you later just to be able to get everything right and to have it, because I knew this was going to actually be worth something. I knew there was a lot of knowledge and a lot of good pieces of information you had, and I hope people listen to it. We had like 1,000 on the other podcast, and I'm going to kind of piggyback off of them, and but it's like one of those things. It's just, I'm going to try this out. I've set goals for it. I've written a plan pretty much. I've figured out what I'm going to do. I'm going to do it for this amount of time, and if I'm where I'm at, where I want to be, I'll continue it, and if not, we'll see where I'm at in a year. I'm going to continue to do it and try, and if I got one view on every single thing, it maybe not be for me.
well, okay. One thing you always got to look at is when you're doing something, anything. It's if you can change one person's life or viewpoint or help them through something by anything I say or any of these comedians say or anything you have on, then it's always worth it. When you start your words coming out, well, if I don't get, you put a negative spin on it. So if you're, going back to the comedy club, do I want a lot of people in there and seeing you guys? Yeah, and it breaks my heart when we have a few, but those few that paid their $20 on a weekend show to come in, or hell, even $5 on a Thursday, got a few moments of laughter, and they forgot about their life for a while. That is that's another reason why I did it, because my hashtag I always put on stuff is laughter for the soul, because if you can't laugh, you're really fucked up and you need to check yourself in. But that's where you got to realize anything you do, if you do it authentically and someone hears it, you put it out. Goes back to putting shit out in the universe that's good, and someone's going to hear it and it's going to move somebody. And I forget that lesson all the time, because I feel sometimes I'm like, why do I do this? No one cares. And then I catch myself and I'm like,
stop thinking about what you're benefiting.
Yeah. Think about everybody else that's benefiting. So,
well, Mike, I'm not going to take up too much of your time. I just want to say I appreciate it. And
no.
hopefully we could do another one. Get some more nuggets of knowledge out of you. Hope everyone comes check you out. Do you have no idea when?
Yeah, we don't know.
No,
we'll
keep your eyes open on the computer screen.
Yeah,
you ain't got shit else to do. Check it out.
Yeah, look on. Kept the website and Facebook.
Yeah, do you have anything else going on? You been looking at anything else?
Actually, I just met a guy that's an entrepreneur, and we need to have a sit down with him. I'm going to, he's like, oh, we should grab a beer. And he's a younger guy. He he brought the first escape rooms to St. Louis. And then he brought the first axe throwing things,
Okay.
axe throwing.
Yeah.
And he's got an idea for another, it's kind of like cornhole, but the targets explode. So it sounds kind of good. It's actually played down in Columbia, the country. And so he's wanting to.
Not as much regulation down there, I'm guessing.
Yeah. He wants to figure out how to do it so it's not, it's legal in the States, but it sounds kind of cool. So, and that's, we just want to get together and see what we can come up with. Because I'd love to come up with something that's COVID, that COVID can't screw up,
right?
Or anything.
I think that's what everybody's been pounding their head on against the pavement with, is just trying to figure out
Yeah,
a
because
way to make
I think post COVID is going to be everything's going to change, and how entertainment is going to be perceived. And I heard like movies are going to be more niche movies. They're looking at doing that. More theaters will be boutique theaters. So I don't know.
Yeah,
Well,
drive-ins have done really well.
yeah,
I see all kinds of concerts. A lot of the concerts people I would go see, they've been doing that, and I think like who is it? The more famous comedians, Bert Kreischer and guys like that. They've been doing
yeah. Brian
tailgate.
Regan did a
Yeah.
bunch of them.
So, but I appreciate it, man.
Oh no,
Thank you.
thank you for having me on.
man.
Love to
Yeah,
sit down and talk with you anytime.
awesome. Well, I'll be having you back. Yeah.